Hello everyone, and welcome to another beer review. Now, today is a Sunday video, and thank God. And we're doing a different Sunday video, or a different beer from what we did last time. What we did the last time was a golden ale from the Triple F brewery. I'm having a little break. I've done two Triple F breweries. I did the session golden ale, which was bloody dreadful, and then I did the Bohemian Pilsner, which was even fucking worse. And the two kind of things I've noticed is that there are hop management within the recipes. The ratios are fucking dreadful, and they're what type of hop or whatever kind of how would you say format of hops they're actually using, whether it's pellet or fucking extract oil, is just dreadful as well. So I'm having a break from it. I'm not having any more Triple F beers at the moment. I'm going to have a little break. So we're on a Scottish one today. So we're on a kind of an Imperial Stout, really. Apparently a handcrafted one. There's that hand again. Oh, it's handcrafted, honest. You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah. I'm sure they don't use pumps to transfer. I'm sure they're fucking ladling it over from the fucking fermenter and that type of stuff to the conditioning vessel. Absolutely. But anyway, it's from the Spey Valley. And it's 7.5% ABV. It's 500ml. And it's called Bring Out the Imp Imperial Stout. And there's a bit of spill in the back. A 7.5% handcrafted Imperial Stout brewed with the finest malts, oatmeal, fermented with Belgian yeast, delivering a rich and sublime beer. Malts are pale, crystal, chocolate and a roasted barley, and the hops are Simcoe and Cascade. Cascade's a bit worrying. The Simcoe is a little bit worrying, but the Cascade is very worrying, and I wish I'd read that. Again, I should have read the fucking label. Anyway, let's see. Spey Valley Brewery at Malcolburn, Keith. So I've got to admit, I'm a big problem with the River Spey, because I know the River Spey covers quite a few different areas within Scotland, all the way up to Dufton and these areas and that type of stuff. But I used to have relations. Unfortunately, they're all dead, I think. Round about the kind of the Spey Valley, just north of Aviemore, in between Aviemore and Granton Spey, at Dulning Bridge and that type of stuff. And I just always seem to, when I think of Spey, I always think of Dulning Bridge and kind of Granton and Spey, that type of stuff, area about the Spey and things like that. Yeah, I forget it goes further up and everything else, but just, you know, memories just take me back to that area, which was lovely, beautiful area, lovely, beautiful people. And yeah, I just wonder what my Uncle Gordon would have made some of the beers that I review nowadays. I'm telling you, he would have fucking thrown them at me if I'd fucking, let's try this, Uncle. There you go. No like it. You know what I mean? It'd be like that. Because I've got my Uncle Gordon, Gordon Allen. He called a spade a spade. He was a really nice guy and that type of stuff. And yeah, by God, he didn't fuck about, seriously. And yeah, I mean, he didn't use a C word, but you always felt that when he used to basically call you a name or used to say things to you and that type of stuff, because you were a kid and that, he didn't use the C word. And he died before I became old enough that he probably would have used the C word with us. But you always felt that even when he was talking to you and that type of stuff as a kid, even though he left the C word out, you knew it was there. You know what I mean? You just really didn't fuck about at all. And hopefully this beer will be kind of similar. Hopefully it's kind of dead on. But when I read Simcoe and Cascade, especially the Cascade. Oh my God, seriously. Well, let's see. Let's. It's a Sunday video. There's a 7.5%. It's a nice dark ale. Got to give it a go, haven't we? Got to give it a go. You know what I mean? If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. Hopefully it does. Crikey. But yeah, I used to love summers up in Aviemore and Downey Bridge and everything else with my cousins, and it was fucking great. So it was. They fucking hated me because I was the proverbial see you next Tuesday. Seriously. Oh my God, the trouble I used to cause there. I mean, I'm sure Gordon actually quite liked it now and again. Unfortunately, he had kidney problems and he actually had his own dialysis machine and everything else. I used to sit and talk to him. He used to sit in his knee with his own dialysis machine. And he smoked a pipe and he used to keep giving me wee kind of shots of his pipe and that type of stuff, and then laugh his head off while I'm in the fucking toilet next to the living room, fucking throwing my guts up. You know what I mean? At the time when I'm thinking, it smells so nice, but it's so fucking cheap, because it was, you know, pipe tobacco, it's got that kind of alluring smell, the aromas, you know what I mean? And then it's like, grin at the gills after a couple of fucking draws in his pipe, and he's fucking probably pissing himself laughing in the fucking chair while he's listening to me retch my guts up in the fucking toilet next door. You know what I mean? Old bastard. But actually, I like that. I like that. You know what I mean? I respect that, you know what I mean? And I always actually liked his company. You know what I mean? He was a kind of a rough geezer, but really, there was something attractive about him that just made him fun to be around about. So he was. He was completely different from my dad, and maybe that was the attraction. He was a different person from my dad, but yeah, in lots of different ways. A man of very few words, but by God, could he get his point across in very few words, and I think a lot of it was down to his look. Yeah, he really had so many different looks of disdain and yeah, he could look at you and not even say a word, and he could look at you and you think, yeah, you're right. You ask him a question and he would just kind of look at you, and you kind of get from that kind of look thinking, yeah, stupid question. Right, anyway, I'll just go this way out of your way, and I'll leave you to the rest of your day, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, you could cover so many kind of sentences in one look thinking, don't talk shit, fuck off out my face, and trust me, I don't want to see you until next fucking week. You know, just with one look, and you're like, fair enough. But you liked that. Well, I liked that anyway. So what does it smell of? Well, getting a slightly kind of tones of, don't know whether it's coffee or chocolate, but I'm getting slightly kind of that kind of dark chocolate bitterness or kind of espresso kind of bitterness. And kind of roasted grains. That's the two smells I'm getting just now. Not really getting any alcohol. At 7.5%, I'm not getting that. Not really getting too much of the malt. Maybe a little hint of molasses, but not much. And mostly it's all about the kind of, what I feel like I'm smelling is the mid-tongue. I'm not really smelling the kind of front of the mouth. I'm not really kind of smelling the back end. It's just, I'm smelling the kind of mid-tongue. So, let's see what it tastes like. First impressions, not bad at all. I'm now looking, I'm quite glad I had a wee break from the Triple F brewery, and this being a Scotch brewery, I'm like, oh God, yeah, I'm actually helping myself out here, you know, I'm kicking myself in the balls here. But no, I'm not. It's a Scottish brewery that's made an Imperial Stout around about the 7.5%. Could have probably been a wee bit more, But I'd say it's just enough for what the flavour profiles are and the intensity of the flavours. And you are getting that little bit of alcohol feel to it. And overall, it's actually quite nice. The flavours, the traditional flavours are there. That's the thing. That's the thing that stands out to me, is they're not trying to be smart. I felt that maybe they were trying to be a bit smart. I was worried about the Cascade, because it really it's 50-50 how which way it's going to go. I mean, especially if you're using it in the more kind of real darker beers like this, it can end up giving you a kind of slightly nasty kind of accent flavour. But again, it always depends on ratios and everything else, so they're only telling me what's in it, but they don't tell you what ratio it is and everything else. And the Simcoe can work for you, but the problem is depending on the ratios and how you use it, Simcoe can also work against you. It's one of these ones. It could be nice if you get it right, but if you don't, it can maybe slightly punish you a bit. And it's working. It's working. But again, let's be totally honest, these beers are more about the malt and everything else, and I would expect the malt to be the main flavours. But if they're more a progressive brewery, they can still basically take a really strong malt forward beer and make it all about the bloody hops. So even then, nowadays, you can't take anything for granted. So, you're looking at, I think, the kind of choice of hops. Well, if you don't get this right, it's going to be a fucking disaster. And even though what you've said in the malts seems quite normal and kind of natural for this type of beer, I'm worried about how you're going to deliver the hops, and are you going to deliver too many hops and not enough of the malts, and especially on a beer that's all really about malt. Do you know what I mean? And when I say malt, I mean, let's be totally honest, I mean, when I say malt, I'm also meaning the grains as well, because obviously it's more to do with grains with stout, and of course it's roasted malts is really more porters, and roasted grains is more to do with stout and everything else. But you know what I mean, when I talk about malts and that type of stuff, I mean the grains and the malts together. And yes, this is more about the malts and the grains, less so of the hops. The hops really should be taking quite a back seat on this. You know what I mean? The hops should really be used as a balancing reference, accent reference at most. But nowadays, you can take nothing for granted, unfortunately. So you're on edge. You're on tenterhooks thinking, I mean, normally in the past you think, well, it's an Imperial Stout. Guess what? It's going to taste like an Imperial Stout. Whereas nowadays, well, Jesus, they're so fucking progressive nowadays. You can buy an Imperial Stout and you think, should taste like an Imperial Stout, and ends up tasting like a fucking amber ale or a fucking golden ale that's overly hopped. And you're like, oh, what the fuck went wrong? That type of stuff, You can't really understand the choices that certain breweries make anymore. So I was worried. But not so. Malt levels, nice. Flavour intensity, nice. Balance, nice. Traditional flavours, box checked. Actually, it's actually quite a nice Imperial Stout. And fair play to them. Hands up. It's a Scottish brewery. I mean, it'll be interesting. I'll maybe look at more at the Spey Valley Brewery and see what else they've got. But just on this beer, they haven't fucked about with it. They've obviously tasted it and realised, this is what we're looking for. This is what we want, and they've gone with it. Not thinking, oh well, this is what we want, but it's just not enough. It's not enough to whatever size. It almost feels like beers are following political divides. It really does. It feels that way. And it's like, left or right of centre and that type of stuff. You know what I mean? And it just feels like, this is what we wanted to achieve. This is what we're looking for. This is what an Imperial Stout should taste like. And we're happy with that. It's got a nice balance to it. The flavours are nice. They're clean enough and everything else. And they must have been delighted to put this in a fucking bottle. Because I would be. Because that's what it feels like. If I was the brewer and I produced this and I was tasting it thinking, after condition, thinking, you get this in a fucking bottle. Seriously, this is nice. This is good. Really, they should be saying we should get this in a fucking cask and start spreading it around Scotland and fucking teach the Scottish drinkers that put down them glasses of Tennent's, you bastards, and taste something real and natural, you fucking Philistines. Maybe something like that, And see them, if you even ask for Guinness, chip the bastards with the fucking embossed glass that says Guinness, which means arsehole in Scotland, that type of thing. Which would be wonderful, but they don't, because they're all like, what do you think about ID, digital ID? Do you think I'm a guy from an IT point of view. I'm kind of IT bent, and I think that's a fucking disaster because governments can't control anything else, and you're handing over your data as a digital ID that's going to be linked with your medical records and everything else. I can't think of anything fucking worse. Seriously. And they're going to put it in your phone, which means it has to be online because it has to have updates in relation to the app, has to have updates in relation to maybe data as that changes. Because guess what? We all get older, our medical things will change, maybe our financial and social situation might change. I've had a job but I got paid off, I'm now in the fucking dole, all that kind of stuff. So the minute there's updates, it has to be online. And then it's just seriously, you have a database that's now going to be compulsory to everybody in the UK. It's the biggest database in the UK holding all this information. Seriously, you might as well have a big neon sign saying to any hacker or any government that basically is not aligned and allies of the UK government saying, come and get us, it's all there for you boys, it's all there for you. Seriously, it was like the first date sitting across from you with no knickers on, a little bit of effort and well, you can see everything before you even have to commit, It's like that. It's fucking dangerous, seriously dangerous. Even if they just had an ID card, like your driver's license, that would be 100% more safe and secure than having a fucking app with all that data on. Seriously, or connected to that data. I can't think of anything more stupid. And there's no way, looking at how stupid, because I've worked for government, how pathetic and useless they are. It'd be a fucking disaster, and trust me, certain kind of countries would see it as Christmas. Russia would definitely see it as Christmas. Iran would see it as Christmas. China would see it as Christmas. There's so many foreign agents would see it as, this is a fucking dream come true. And whether they could do it themselves or whether they all come together to do that, then that wouldn't surprise me. Bring resources together and attack it, and by God, they would just get everything. Absolutely everything. So they would know who your police are, they would know who your judges are, they would know about everything. And that's all they need to do, is to know who's who. That's one of the things they go for, is knowing who is who And then after that, then they can pick the people of interest. And that's how they work. Find who's who, and then basically find out whether they're a person of interest. If you're a judge, then let's say they can find something on that judge so they can try and kind of manipulate and utilise them. Same with police, same with military, everything else. So imagine if we've got military's got that information on there. The British Army, Air Force, Navy, and then you've got your rank associated with you. And then it's a case of, well, fine, if we're going to maybe try and find a persuasive ally, as they used to call it. In other words, people they can manipulate, find something on and then use that to manipulate or try and buy them or whatever. They don't have to waste time trying to kind of find who's who. You're giving it to them on a plate with a little bit of work, and they can get a cornucopia of information and data. And you're sitting there thinking, and of course, obviously, it's been initially sold as well. It's the way of stopping immigration, which is utter fucking nonsense. Seriously, if these people are coming over illegally and they're utilising the kind of, how would you call it, the .com employment systems, the app employment systems, let's be totally honest, people are so frightened about being racist you can't turn around and say, well, wait a minute here. Old Abdullah has actually registered on the app and he showed his ID and everything else and that type of stuff, so he's legal to work. But at the end of the day, we're not constantly seeing these people because it's done through an app. So at the end of the day, Uber, Deliveroo, Just Eat, whatever, Stewart, whatever kind of app you're utilising, you're not having to kind of sign on and confirm your identity every time you use it, so they can still sell it on. So it's all bullshit and bollocks. So it's not going to affect illegal working. It's not going to affect illegal immigrants working or anything like that. It's just utter bollocks. It really is. And I can't believe that they even think that that's an acceptable form. I mean, Christ. It's like drop your panties, lube up your anus and say, well, do whatever you feel comes natural, I will not complain. It's almost like that. It's like complete capitulation. If they want to go down the ID card route, okay, fine, because I've lived in Russia, and of course you need your propiska, and my wife, I've grown up used to they have their grand passport, which is their international passport that they use for leaving Russia and entering any other country and things like that, just like our normal passport. But they also have an internal passport, which has their registration of where their address is and everything else, and where they've got kids and things. All that kind of information is in their internal passport. So I'm used to that. And I can see some benefits to it, and I can also see plenty of bollocks to it. So, I can see good things and bad things to these type of situations. But to do it as a digital app with, let's be totally honest, the British government, Jesus, from the kind of early to mid-90s has been a fucking disaster and an absolute joke for the British people. Probably a joke for people outside, but for within the UK, they've been a fucking disaster from the kind of early to mid-90s to nowadays. And yeah, and with the influence of the civil service and these other fucking opportunist fucking morons, seriously, used to be, if you came from a well-to-do family and you were thick as shit, then they would put you in the kind of religious kind of bent, you'd be shoved in the priesthood or, the kind of Church of England or something like that, Nowadays you're shoved in the civil service. And how's your children doing now? Have they finished eating? Yes, they finished eating. Number one son he's doing well now. He's well educated now. He's completed Cambridge, and it's wonderful. Yes, wonderful. And what's he doing with himself? Well, actually, he's gone into finance, and he's doing really well. He's absolutely bent as a £3 note. He's taking up the chutney ferret every fucking morning and that type of stuff. So we don't really want to talk about him, although he is very successful, making a lot of money and that type of stuff. So he's bailing us out because at the end of the day, with the old toffs that are kind of struggling to cope and manage our estate. But at the end of the day, he's making lots of money, even though he's a bit of a wide receiver. And what about the other boy, the younger boy? Well, he's thick as shit. He really, geez, he just scraped through eating and that type of stuff. And we didn't know what we were going to do to him. We thought he was going to be, we were going to be lumbered with him and that type. But we managed to get him into the civil service. Yes, he's in the civil service. Yes, he's now advisor to the Labour fucking PM. Huh? How's that going? Probably be a fucking disaster. But at the end of the day, it's not our responsibility anymore. And he is straight. Amazingly enough. And it's like that. That's what you're fucking dealing with. And yes, you've got utter fuckwits. You know what I mean? Seriously. Utter fuckwits in the civil service. And they're going to do all the procurement and management and everything else in relation to it. They don't have a fucking clue. And then they're putting it through probably third-party private companies who, at the end of the day, they're just looking to try and milk as much money as they can for as little effort as possible. And yeah, they don't give a shit if it breaches it, because at the end of the day, it's going to hit the civil service and whatever government's in there. And yeah, I can't think of anything worse. So if you're not really sure about digital ID apps, then take it from me, who's a guy that basically I've worked in IT for the government, I've worked in IT in the private sector, and I've worked for some good IT companies in the private sector, and I have my own kind of company that's obviously an engineering and IT bent. And seriously, avoid as much as possible. It's not going to resolve the problems it's going to claim, but trust me, potentially it could create the all mother of problems if it goes wrong, and there's a bloody good chance it could. So, your choice. But I can tell you, for me, it's a big fucking no. It's got nothing to do with politics, it's to do with reality. There you go. So it doesn't matter if you come from left, right, centre, or wherever, I'm an environmentalist. If I'm mowing trees and wanking out in fucking fields, I still don't want this. That'd be fine. I would agree with that. You go for it, Trico. You cream in that fucking wheat field, you know what I mean? But say no to digital ID app. Absolutely disastrous. But anyway, what's this like? You get nice. You do get a nice front end. It really is. It's enjoyable. It really is a nice front end. So, you're getting a bit of molasses tones. You're also getting ever so slightly light chocolate tones in that front end. You get a little bit of roasted, toasted grain, and you're also getting a little bit of sweetness, not much, and it's just nice. But you even get a little bit of slightly kind of bitterness and dryness at the front end, which is really nice. Maybe with the mid tongue. And it's very much of a mustiness, but what you also do is maybe slightly pick up a little bit more of the alcohol in the mid-tongue, because maybe things are just a little bit light on the mid-tongue, and you just get a little notice of alcohol, just get a little hint thinking, do you ever hear, boys? It's got a little bit more than normal. And that's what it feels like. It's not like in your face or punching you or giving you alcohol vapors at 7.5%, which sometimes can happen. Because the malt is just nice and everything else, and the roasted grains are just nice, what it is, it's saying like, just calm it down a bit. It's a little bit more alcohol than normal. That's all I'm saying. Just a little flash in the pan warning. And yeah, it really is nice up until the kind of middle of the mid-tongue. And then when it gets from the middle of the mid-tongue, that's where things kind of like, hi, the neon lines are switched on. Are you ready for tonight's guests? You know what I mean? It's like that. It's like nightclub time. And yeah, it just kind of takes off from there. It's nice up until then, and then it just takes off and just gives you a little bit more. And that's when you start picking up kind of slightly kind of bitter chocolate kind of espresso tones. It's just like a kind of a strong mocha without the milk. It really is. It's like kind of slightly chocolate and coffee espresso tones, kind of bitterness moving on from the kind of mid tongue. And it's just nice, and it works well with the kind of molasses tones, and it just brings you another level, and it just moves on to the kind of back of the mid tongue, the back of the mouth, and aftertaste as it transitions over there. You're just getting a nice kind of feel to it, and just where things just kind of come to a head, where the flavours are all there individually. So I can pick up the roasty grains, I can pick up the malt, I can pick up the little chocolate tones and bitterness, I can pick up little hints of espresso. And it just kind of finishes to a nice kind of, everything just kind of dissipates. Not a completely clean finish, but a fairly clean finish. But what tones kind of slightly linger are just that nice kind of little kind of chocolate and espresso tones. And it really is, it's really quite a nice finish. And overall, fair play to them. It's a bloody nice beer. That is a nice beer. And it covers the flavours well. It has the intensity right. The clarity of flavour is right. And the balance is right. It really is. It's nice. And because of that, I mean, if you put that glass down in front of somebody, they might have a little hint that's maybe slightly higher than normal. They probably wouldn't think it's a 7.5%er because you're not getting alcohol vapours or anything like that. It's just really, really nice. So, for this 7.5% Imperial Stout from the Spey Valley, what would I give it out of 10? Well, I'm going to enjoy the rest of this, I'll be totally honest. But it's nice and it's spot on. It's probably one of the nicest Imperial Stouts I've had for a long time. And I'm also very surprised it's come from Scotland, because I'll be totally honest, I've been quite disappointed with Scotland. I'm not saying that Scotland can't make good beers, because they bloody can. I'm just disappointed that a lot of them don't. A lot of breweries and everything else don't, even though Scotland previously has had a good reputation of making some really nice beers. And we're not talking about McEwan's or Tennant's, you know what I mean? They've had a history. I mean, let's be totally honest, the beer history from Scotland used to be so good that even the Belgians used to emulate it. Well, they still do emulate it. Unfortunately, now they actually make better versions of Scottish beers than the Scots do. But yes, they actually have Scotch ales, and they're actually copies of rich kind of wee heavies and everything else, because they appreciate the malt management, and they understood that the Scotch beers were basically well malt forward, well managed beers, and they emulated them, and they're actually very popular. You'd be surprised how many Scotch type beers in Belgium are actually very popular with the Belgians. And if you're asking how do I know that, is because I used to live in Brussels. I spent almost 3 years based out of Brussels, and that's one of the things, was that when they found that you were from Scotland and you'd be out there in some of the beer kind of major kind of beer pubs and things like that, and you'd be chatting with the kind of beer aficionados and that, and they found you from Scotland. Oh, you must try our Scotch beers. You must try our Scotch beers. You must give us feedback on what you think of them. And they appreciate it. And they would say, can you taste this? Can you taste that? You're getting this? I mean, you know, because they're looking at their understanding of good quality traditional Scotch ales, and they're looking to emulate that because they appreciate the quality of flavour and everything else. So let's be totally honest, the Scots can make fucking good beers. To the point is that the Belgians make fucking good beers and they even appreciate the Scotch beers. Unfortunately, none of the Belgians are turning around saying, "Oh, I wish we could make a Tennent's or a McEwen's." I'm like, no, we don't want that shit. So yes, that's the thing that stands out. It's good it's come from a Scottish brewery, and it's good that they've got all the flavours and the balance right. So on that basis, I'm going to give this an 8. It really is that good, and it really is that nice, and they just got the balance right, and it's very enjoyable. And I think the price, I think I actually got this at Aldi, and I think it was well under £2. I'll obviously confirm that in the information below. But for 500ml, 7.5%, it's a bloody good beer. It really is. It just does everything you want and expect from a Imperial Stout, but done with a bit of class. It's not just kind of dragging itself through it. It's done with a bit of pride, and it feels like it's done with a bit of class. It feels like the flavours are clear and precise, and yeah, the balance is right. Yeah, it's a bloody good beer. I'll be told it's a bloody good beer, and I would recommend it. And it gives a little bit of pride as well. You've got a bit of pride in it. Well, not only have they made a good beer, but it's actually come from a Scottish brewery for a change. So you get a bit of pride with that, a bit of nationalism, which of course, you can't have real nationalism. We're not talking about SNP fucking delusional. We're talking about, it's nice it's come from a Scottish brewery, and I hope to God it's the cases of English, Irish, and Scots also get a chance to appreciate it as well, because we're all here together. That type of thing. Yes, absolutely. An easy 8 out of 10. That is a very nice beer. Anyway, thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye for now.